from I am the challenge to I am not on the challenge in just one episode. Plus, Turbo learns which body parts come out when. CT and Adrienne, the new power couple. Michaela does smart things. Theo huffs and puffs. They don't show us fun things happening on the bus. And Gabe gets his big moment of redemption and glory. It's the challenge. 41 vets and new threats. Episode 4 recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future, for what's happening in the Challenge universe. We are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated challenge historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very much for being here with me today to dive into episode 4, which is really episode 5. I'm going to keep saying that all season long. Episode 4 of season 41, Vets and New Threats, the one where the challenge loses, aka Johnny Bananas loses. Gabe gets his redemption, and some other things happen, and some other things happen that we don't even get to see. We're going to dive into all of it really quickly here. The only programming reminder is last week I told you Alan and I would be recording a Fresh Meat 2 podcast that was slightly postponed. The recording, that is still happening. It's still coming out. So you still have time to send over questions if you have any. A few of you have done so. Great questions. We'll try to incorporate them as best we can. Those, whenever those end up posted, again, will be over on the Caffeine Confessionals YouTube page and podcast feeds wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for being here. Let's dive right on in. A good old classic walk through the episode and talk about episode 4. Starting with the pre-daily challenge section, which honestly had a whole bunch of nothing in it. We learned that Olivia still wanted Bananas out. We learned that Bananas still wanted Olivia out, but was playing it a little slower and feeling a little safe. And I guess maybe we learned a little bit more where certain allegiances lie, but we more so learned that later in the episode. So not a whole lot was going on, although one thing that did happen was I got faked out. The editors got me. They got me good. I will admit that. I sometimes gripe about, it's not even really their fault, but that sometimes the edits of these episodes can be quite predictive. And because, they're going to highlight the people that are going into elimination or winning the daily challenge or both, things of that nature. And so at the beginning of the episode, when the preview, the first 30, 45 minutes, that's kind of seconds, that's like the preview of the episode, said a legend would fight for their life in the arena. And then later they were showing us CT and Ben just chatting about their partners and things it seemed like this is completely this is fun and this is nice, great. But it felt like this is just they got to give us some CT because CT's going to go in and CT's going to lose. And that's what I thought. I thought it was that obvious of an edit. And in fact, it was that obvious of a misdirection. And yes, CT and Adrienne did wonderful at the Daily Challenge. We'll talk about that in a second. But I fell for that. Good work, editing team. And then really the only thing of the pre-Daily Challenge of note was probably the best moment of the episode. We'll see if it wins that award later. But Bananas teaching Turbo a bunch of phrases. The sky's out, thighs out, rock out with your cock out, jam out with your clam out. I don't know if this is listed as an explicit podcast, but it probably should be if it wasn't already, and I guess it just became one if it wasn't already. The best thing about this, although it is a fun scene, it is a fun moment, and it is made especially better by then CT coming over and joining in and doing the Suns Out, Buns Out version, and everything about it was great. If you're not aware, Turbo occasionally makes some music and music videos, and one of them that was made and that we, during the lead up to this season, kind of were like, oh, that's a thing Turbo did recently, has to do with phrases from this moment. It turns out that this crazy song that he put out on the internet, I think it's still there. You can go look on YouTube or otherwise. Comes from some of the phrases that Johnny was teaching him here. And so that was a crazy connection to make, but it was a very funny moment and a fun moment amongst those 3 champions. Then we go to the Daily Challenge. I loved this Daily Challenge. They're just, it's been a while. They've really just, they've they hit their stride on the season 41 or season 40 or 39, whatever. They hit their stride a very, very long time ago, as far as, being able to plan and execute amazing daily challenges repeatedly, and always, something a little different that they haven't really done. And they're just continuing to crush it with the dailies, the design of the dailies, I think, of this season. And, in really the last handful of seasons, is, you can say what you want about each individual season, but I think the daily challenges, and to some degree the eliminations, we're going to talk about that later, but the daily challenges have been really, really good. I like this one. I personally like that they've just decided, they've leaned in to the great mistake of the past, which wasn't the Sudoku's fault. It was everything else that was happening around the Challenge USA 1 final. It wasn't necessarily the Sudoku's fault. But I like that they just leaned all the way in and were like, you know what? F it. Sudoku is a part of the challenge, not lexicon, the challenge toolkit. You got to be good. You got to know how to do Sudoku to be on the challenge. It's just going to show up. It's going to show up probably almost every single season. Pretty much does at this point. And so shows up here. I like that they have to run through the maze. I love that the puzzles weren't, as even TJ kind of explains, a little misdirect of his part and their part, of like, that first one they pass is an easy one, but you would think, oh, you got to run further. He even says, I think you have to run further to find the easier ones. But no, they were just kind of randomly placed in there. So you could just take your pick, and sure, that makes things more random, but I was interested in that kind of random. And so I like the whole daily challenges. As for the performances, there were a few that I like, and there were some that I had big time questions. Let's start with the biggest question. Theo, who has been going back and forth with Wes for the last week on X. Wes made big proposals about, like, meet me here, meet me there, do this final, do that thing, like, I'll smoke you, you have no chance, the whole thing. And then Wes got to follow up by being like, you're seriously just like wheezing and huffing and puffing after a couple minutes of running through this little maze, like, what's going on here? I had the same questions. I know he was nowhere near the, like, very high level runner, track athlete that he once upon a time was, like professional level over in England and everything. Yeah, you're not going to train like that anymore, in your just regular life, and you're on the shows, and it seems like he's put on a bunch of muscle. So he is training just maybe in that realm more than ever running anymore. But, like, I thought he would have the ability to not be huffing and puffing after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or I think it ends up being 11 minutes when they finally get to a puzzle. You never know if you can actually trust those timestamps. But that was a big question, as far as, like, he's got a great position in the game. And you would think, given that he finished second in the hardest final in the history of the show, and was just one little math problem in that final away from maybe beating Turbo and winning that season, that, like, this guy in this position in this game would be the biggest threat on the board potentially. But this is making me think, like, a final is going to be tough sledding for Theo there. Leo and Ashley. Theo was a WTF. Leo and Ashley was a WTH. This is kind of par for the course for Ashley, working with a partner, especially a partner who doesn't know how to do the thing they're being asked to do and still wants to give some input or ask some questions. I don't know that his input or questions were, like, too off base, or, he's excited. He wants to do stuff. But Leo is also just confusing me, as they point out in this episode, is like, he's the one that for no reason last week stood up and was like, hey, we're going to stop targeting, the rookies and everything. And then this week was like, we can still, we'll still do the rookie in there. And I know Bananas ended up losing the whole thing. I don't know. He's just a little bit confusing, but he's enjoying talking. He's enjoying giving confessionals. And there is something there. There is something there. And Ashley is, giving us, it was an interesting moment. They do, like, the Smashly. She references it. They show some clips. There's a lot of showing clips of the legends of the game when they, like, back were creating their legends. It's an interesting choice, and makes me feel a certain way. I kind of feel like I'm still watching season 40 a little bit, where that was more anticipated and expected that would be part of the storyline. CT and Adrienne, not a part of the storyline I expected. They obviously crush it. They have absolutely crush it. Adrienne does fantastic with the puzzle. CT throws in where needed, but also is the smart one, that even this is the smarts of a CT and the experience of a CT and a trust level of a CT as a partner, that he's like, yo, Adrienne clearly seems like she not only knows what she's doing, she's moving quick, she's confident. I'm good at this stuff, but, like, I'll stand back. The best thing for a puzzle like this is one person kind of just doing it, the other one handing them the numbers and only piping in if they need some help. And so, sure, I might be good at this, but she clearly seems like she's going to be very good at it. Confidence is high. Let her do her thing. She absolutely crushed it. They absolutely crushed it. Fantastic job by both of them. Jeremy's slides into frame in the background as they were trying to chase down, those were cool. I don't care. They were cool. I think there's a 50-50 chance that you thought that was a little lame, that's a little weird. I fell on the other side of that and thought they were cool and looked great. No points for Cara Maria. Still 0 points on the board for Cara Maria. I don't know what to say about that. You only have to get top half of the daily challenge. Not even top half anymore. Not even top half to get a point. And she can't put a point on the board. And that's making me very nervous. We will see if she falls out of the power rankings later. Spoiler alert, she did. You can't have 0 points. And whatever they end up meaning, you can't have 0. And I'm feeling like she could be a threat in a final, but not if this turns into an All-Stars 4 situation where you're at a significant disadvantage because of the point star thing that they put into play, and you can't get any of them, and you can't do anything about it. This one a little more of her own doing here, obviously. Ben and Michaela, they crush it. Great job for Ben. Great job for Michaela. Really happy for both of them. Get a little more time with both of them. I really enjoyed that. And then the big move that ultimately leads to the big thing of the whole episode, Bananas and Lekka. I know they don't know how much time they're at and if they're near the 45-minute timer. And as always, as I just said minutes ago, whatever it was, not moments, minutes, you can't totally always trust the timestamps that they show us. But they do say before, TJ in the rules, and I'm sure even more so to them, anyone who times out, we're going with how many correct answers on the board did you have? And so, yes, they had hit the point of we've effed this up from the start. A lot of what's on this board might be wrong, but you got to remember the rules. And this is where Bananas, the ultimate experienced person, I thought would think through, we're not finishing this. It's definitely been too long. We don't have time to redo it. If we take it off, we don't have any correct up there, and hopefully we still have a decent amount of correct, enough to not get last. I would be interested in knowing, and maybe I don't know if they could say that or whatever in the episode, but if they would have left it up there, I wonder how many they had right and if they could have avoided last place. But they take them all off, and then the timer goes off, and they are absolutely screwed. As as they walk out, he's like, "Oh, we're screwed. We lost that." And I didn't fact check. I didn't check challenge stats if they fact checked that Bananas has never gotten last in a go straight to elimination scenario. That sounds like true, probably. And I bet they probably wouldn't have used that confessional from him if it wasn't. So pretty wild and crazy stat, honestly, that if that is true. But yeah, big boneheaded move sends him to a limb and ultimately, obviously, sends him home. Then we've got the club and the house and the nominations, and this will be fairly quick too because they show us a bunch of stuff that is just kind of whatever, and they don't show us a bunch of stuff that probably would have been not so whatever, because in the trailer for the season, one of the trailers, I think in all the trailers, they showed a few things happening on buses and a few different kisses and romantic entanglements, potential romantic entanglements. Not potential. They showed kisses in that trailer, and a few of them were were identified as America, potentially, allegedly. I'm going to say I haven't studied them that close, but it's all the internet was talking about the trailer of hey, she has someone back home, and here she is on a bus kissing what looked like a woman. I don't remember who, and maybe kissing someone else elsewhere or whatever. And I believe I just saw before recording that Bananas had said something to the effect on his podcast of that happened and they didn't show it. One of the nights when they went out was there was some kissing happening on the bus, and there was also some other people kissing on the bus, and there was also just stuff happening on the bus in general, and a lot of stuff that has passed in the timeline here. And I would guess they're not going to retcon into way later in the timeline here. And so they're not showing us any of that. And that's a bummer because that's interesting and fun. And what they show us instead, look, I just said earlier, I love that we got more Michaela and I love that we got more Ben. I'm really enjoying Ben's contributions to the show. And if you listen to the preseason and the first episode and everything, I was as excited about Michaela as anyone else coming back on the vet side. Really enjoy her on this show. Really enjoy her in general. And enjoy how smart she is and thinks through the game. And sometimes maybe she's overthinking it, or, I just love her commentary on no one else in this game is even thinking about the game when clearly I think everyone is, but whatever. I just love all of it. I think it's really fun, but I don't need the full night at the club to be Michaela. I guess it's minorly interesting to find out like Cedric is smart enough to not say anything. And then I forget who even comes over second and does give them information, Jeremy or whoever, I don't know. But the whole point, that whole thing is like a decent chunk of the episode of Michaela and Ben doing some info gathering, all to get to the point where then back at the house, yes, it's kind of like interesting that Michaela then puts together like, well, there's nothing to be done here. There's no move to be made. And so it's a guy's day. And so Ben, too bad. I said I was in charge and I wanted to do all the things. And now there's nothing to do. So you can figure out who you want to tell that we have to say their name for no reason. And, you can deal with that. And they say Derek's name, and it probably has absolutely zero consequence to anyone's game. And I don't think we needed a super fast version of that. Sure. But we didn't need all of that when there was other things that maybe could have been shown from the club or the bus or the house or anything else. And then finally, obviously, they do all of that and they learn nothing because they learned the house is putting in Gabe. The house is putting in Gabe. That's what's going on. And Gabe has a little cry with, I think it's Jake. I get Jake and Will mixed up here for, I don't know why. I think we just haven't seen, we saw a lot of Will in that one episode. So I just shouldn't get them mixed up. But I believe it was Jake and Gabe has a little cry and it just, feels bad. His confidence is down, the whole thing. It's a nice moment. I enjoy getting to like learn a little bit more about these new people and see some like nice, raw, real moments between them. I've got to ask though, did Gabe say some way more wild shit or way more amounts of things about Naya or about other people in the house? Or did he do anything else other than those couple little comments of like, my partner, like basically summing up with, I got partnered with Naya and I don't think she's very good. And I also think she maybe is a little injured or whatever. And this is a bummer. Like I want to compete and I don't know if I'm going to compete. Because if that is the standard to be held to that, like say essentially kind of like that, and everyone hears it, and then your partner has to come be like, hey, what the F? Like, that's not nice to say to me. But if that's the standard for this guy is persona non grata, no one's his friend, no one likes him, you're totally on the outskirts, you're going into elimination, no one even wants to talk to you, hang out with you. Just say he's a rookie and he's vulnerable, and we don't need to like build it into something it's not. But maybe there was a lot we didn't see, and maybe it was a lot worse than what we saw. And I am not, I like Naya a lot, and she's great. I love her. But yeah, it just feels like a little much is being thrown on Gabe here for ultimately quite little, especially in challenge terms. Then the big moment, we go to elimination, and it is a headbanger of sorts. It's not a headbanger. They don't physically get to bang heads, but it is a size and strength and speed situation with some strategy, yes, but ultimately it is who's bigger, stronger, faster situation. And if there's a significant difference, we know where it's going to go outside of a real dumb decision on one part or really master level strategy on the other. And the game is really cool. Like, the game is really cool because it is a nice mix of like, there can be some real strategy, there can be some real deviation. I do have a side tangent question in the middle of this point I'm trying to make. Was everyone being deadly silent because everyone just like agreed we're kind of half rooting for one side, half for the other, and let's just do this one fair? Was this one where they were actually told the competitors need to be like, should be allowed to hear each other rustling and moving around, so you have to be dead silent? Whose decision was that? Was it the group's decision, or was that production's decision of like, you guys have to be quiet on this one? I would like to know that answer. But back to the game being really cool, and but Gabe is just the perfect person for it. Like, Gabe's build and background is, he's the perfect person for this game, or for the offensive part of this game, certainly, and a pretty good one for the defensive part of this game. And it's not a good matchup for Bananas, who is still in great shape and is very, very strong and decently, challenge fast for sure, and everything else, and has the strategy, has the experience. It just does not matter. It really does not matter. It's kind of impressive that he actually even got all three of his tokens in, to some degree, I guess. But it brings me to Wes a second time. He's been very active on the social media streets throughout this season, and especially the last week or two. But he threw out that, this is what we get. He talked about the same thing that I'm talking about here, that we've talked about a bunch before, usually with the more traditional headbangers. But like, yes, these games create the opportunity for the best moments. If you have an even matchup in one of these, it is all-time stuff. It is unbelievable. It is the coolest thing in the world. And if you don't have an even matchup, it is an absolute dud. And there is no real in between. And he suggested that he didn't use the word rigging, but I am going to in its place. He suggested, here's a way to fix it. Have at least a day between the and I'm going to do a bad job of paraphrasing or summarizing his. I'm going to use more words than he used on his X post, but have a day or whatever between when the decision of who's going in is made and when the elimination is. And if you get two people who are of equal build, then plan an elimination that is good to use for that. And if you get two people who do not have equal build, then use one of your eliminations that is in the more toss-up category from a physical build standpoint, and basically like create weight classes and decide, does this game require equal weight classes? If so, great. Only pull from them and use them when equal weight classes are created via the elimination participants. And if the game does not require weight classes, great. Use them for any elimination and wait till you know the two participants until you choose. Whether they could do that or not from a production standpoint, I have talked before of why I am such a big believer in they don't rig any of these things. The only one that I've always given the same example of, like, they have to build these things. It takes time. There is a plan. They're working days in advance. They're working well in advance of the participants being known, anything else. And they're making changes on the fly only for like injury concerns when they had to go from 2 to 1 in whatever that elimination Nisa or Gabo had to do back on Spies, Lies, and Allies, which was supposed to be 2 people, but Nisa got hurt and then it was 1 person. The only one the example I always use is like, if there was just a stick in the sand and it was like, this is too perfect of a matchup, sure, they could remove everything and they don't have to build it. They have to throw a stick in the sand and put a rope ladder around, so maybe, but I've always been big on like, they don't rig eliminations. This is another great moment for like those that believe it. So is this an example of, they wanted Bananas to lose this time, and so this is one they gave him. They wanted Gabe to have this great moment. Oh my gosh, it's going to set up Gabe to be the next star. Is that what the rigging, they always rig the challenge crowd, thinks of this particular one? But Wes's idea is interesting. If they could do that production-wise, then again, that would be essentially in some ways rigging or putting their thumb directly on the scale to debate who is in the same weight class and which games we should require weight classes or not. It's a really interesting idea, though. I would love to talk to Wes further about it. I do think it has a lot of merit. Gabe's a beast, though. He is a beast. Obviously, this being a different weight class individuals does not take away from the fact, goddamn beast, absolute beast mode, absolutely putting those muscles, that speed, that agility, and the kind of smarts to the test. Like, he did learn from being on defense, and he did put that into action on offense. But he's a beast. And if he has we haven't seen him compete in multiple daily challenges in a row, literally the last 2. So we've barely seen him compete in a daily challenge. If he has any puzzle brains, and if his endurance, can go, like we saw flashes of endurance here, like playing defense for the 11 minutes is for a muscular endurance, certainly. But if he's got any endurance and he's got any puzzle, then like he's a threat. But for now, we know at least he is going to be a kind of headbanger extraordinaire in that mold of like, you give me something super physical or just all about size, speed, strength. There's a few of those options out there. If you get one, he's in the absolute top class of winning those. And finally, no more Bananas. No more Bananas. Bananas is gone. 5 episodes in, technically 4, technically 5, either way you want to put it. He did everything he could to create entertainment. We've talked about him by far the most. He was by far the most present in these first 4+1 episodes. And I give him credit for that. He is incredibly good at doing the job. I've spent time on each episode this season and in the preview of the season and everything else, giving my thoughts repeatedly on Bananas and CT and Anissa and even the Leroys and the Nanis and the Wesses if he ever came back, or the Derricks on right now and everything else of like, I don't know that it's good for the longevity of the show. It can be good for specific episodes and specific seasons. And some people are really into it. And there's a lot of you that comment that, like, I watch this show because the people I grew up watching are still on it, and I probably wouldn't otherwise. And I totally get that. I'm definitely I think it's the purist in me and the hopeful optimist that, like, but no, this show could go for another 40 seasons, for another 30 years, no matter what the world looks like or anything, if we just focused on creating some new stars and new people, whatever. I'm thinking pie in the sky, dream stuff that's not realistic. And so it's probably ultimately really great that he's there every season. And I did get a lot of enjoyment out of watching him, as I do every season that he is on, ultimately, even if I would have maybe not cast him on the last few myself. I still really love and enjoy watching him on the show. He is the challenge. He gets to say that. I said that last week. If anyone gets to say it, he gets to say it. I'm glad it also makes for, as he would enjoy, great TV for everyone this week and now next week to be like, he was the challenge and now he's not on the challenge. All the fun jokes that can be had. Maybe this becomes a War of the Worlds situation. Early exit for Banana Man. One or two other super vets around, but rallying around rookies. The storyline's going and rallying around rookies, and we get a really great season, and ultimately great season that, leads to some nice mainstays that are, in our lives for a handful of seasons. We can only hope. But I will finish by just saying I know Bananas is never going to retire. Whatever amount of seasons they have left of the challenge in this world, Bananas will likely be on almost every one of them. And that's okay. That's okay. And I will enjoy it. But I would enjoy a flagship break. Maybe just take one flagship off and pop on over and do that All-Star season. I hear they're getting that one more All-Star season at least in there. Go do All-Stars. I would really, really like to see Bananas cast on All-Stars and maybe take a season off. If we get a Challenge 42 flagship MTV version, take one off. Then for our awards, we talked about it earlier. It's going to sweep the early portion of this. The best quote is Turbo saying all of the phrases back to Bananas every single time. That's the best quote. It's also the best moments, particularly CT actually doing the suns out, buns out for Turbo. Honorable mention to Leo breaking the fourth wall during some of him and Ashley's back and forth in the Daily Challenge. Ben's cutoff sleeve turtleneck that he was rocking at the club. Yeah, you can pull it off. I can't. I don't know, my man. But respect. Gabe doing the CT a leg pump run and CT doing the, callback to a little that leg pump specific walk that we knew from the past. Yeah, those were all good moments, but CT suns out, buns out is the moment. And the MVP, I really didn't know who to give it to. Bananas, CT, Gabe, Olivia. Honorable mentions, all of them. I'm going to give it to Michaela. A little bit of a hands up. It wasn't the knock him down MVP performance, but I guess Gabe, most people would probably be like, I guess Gabe is. He beat Bananas. He had a really good moment. He had the crying scene. It should probably be Gabe, but I'm going to give it to Michaela. And now for the power rankings, big time shakeups, big time shakeups. I don't have the full points in front of me, but I did glance at them when Challenge Stats posted them, the total points. And those things are going to matter at some point, potentially for a lot. And Olivia is way ahead of everyone on them. And she is performing really well every single time. And she has the majority alliance in the house, and it revolves around her, and everyone knows it, and everyone's okay with it. And she's got to be at the top. She was at number 2. It wasn't like I was being disrespectful before, but she's got to be at the top. So she's number 1 now. She's just in complete and utter control of the game now at this point. And Ashley is going to drop to 2. I'm going to keep her there. I still like her position in the house. Still like it. And I still think she's got it in her. Michaela goes all the way up to 3. She's doing really well in the points department. She, I think, is flying under the radar as in being opposition to Olivia's camp that she says in this episode. Very much made it clear, opposed to Team Olivia. But I think that's under the radar. And Lekka will drop to 4th, and Sydney will drop to 5th. So Olivia, Ashley, Michaela, Lekka, and Sydney. That's my top 5. Cara noticeably has precipitously fallen all the way out because she still has 0 points. I'm rooting for you still, Cara, but come on, 0 points. What are we doing? Men's side, Jeremy 1, Turbo 2. That stays unchanged. Bananas is gone, obviously, because he's gone. Theo had to drop out of the top 5 because, I'm sorry, the huffing and the puffing, and I just can't, you got to drop out the top 5 for that performance. And so we got some new entrants. I got Justin coming in at 3rd. I got Will coming in at 4th. Neither of them have been ranked in the prestigious power rankings here on the Challenge Historian prior to this week. Welcome to the power rankings, gentlemen. Justin 3rd, Will 4th. And we keep Jake at 5th. He was at 5th before. We keep him there. So now 4 of the 5 on the men's side, I am saying, are new threats. I think the men's side, the new threats, with respect to CT and Derek and whoever else I'm missing of the vet men, Rogan's gone home. Bananas has gone home. I don't know. Theo that I'm missing. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, 4 of the 5 new vets. So Jeremy holding down 1, Turbo holding it down for the vets at 2, Justin, Will, Jake, Olivia, Ashley, Michaela, Lecca, Sydney on the women's side. That's your power rankings. That's your episode number 4. Vets and new threats. Challenge 41. No more Johnny Bananas on the season. Let's see what that does to the season. Let's see if they give us some good old-fashioned bus content, make-out content, if we get any more of that, or if they want to retcon some stuff that happened weeks ago into the future episode. Who knows what they could do? Who knows what the season has in store for us? But I will be here recapping it all, and I hope you will be here listening to said recaps or watching said recaps on YouTube, wherever you are watching or listening. Please, if you don't, you probably already do. You're all great. You probably already subscribe and follow and press like and the thumbs up every single time you watch or listen to one of these videos. But if you don't, here's your little reminder. Those things help and those things are appreciated. I will talk to you next week, sometime between Wednesday and Friday, whenever we can get the recap up. Until then, peace.